Good afternoon, dear participants. I welcome you all again to the first technical sessions of this FDP. This session will be chaired by Professor Barin Kumar De. Professor Barin De was the founding member of this physics department. Sir has retired in the year 2019. He is a renowned scientist in the area of atmospheric science. In various ways, still SAR is associated with the departments, and the department attained its current positions under the guidance as well as leadership of Professor Barin Kumar De. So with this, I request Professor De to kindly chair this session. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Arshad, for your nice introduction to the participants regarding me. And my thanks to you, as you have given me the responsibility to conduct a session. And in fact, it is the first session of the FDP program on novel materials. Now I welcome the speaker, Professor Mrinal Pal, and all the participants who are eager to listen the lecture to be delivered by Professor Pal. To say, Professor Pal is an eminent scientist in his field, and he is basically from Calcutta University, followed by PhD from CSIR. He has made several visits abroad with respect to research activity. In fact, regarding research activity and academic side of Professor Pal, I think I need not say anything in detail, because I think all the faculties participating here already has been introduced to him via website. But I should mention, Professor Pal, to me, is not only an academician. In fact, such a respectable person is also highly important with respect to various administrative activities in universities and research institute. I find him equally active both in research and administrative activity to say, because he is not only giving lectures, etc., or giving teaching to the students, but he has a lot of support, mainly to the Department of Physics, Tripura University. And Department of Physics, Tripura University is individually grateful to Professor M. K. Pal. So in this session, I am taking the privilege to conduct the session to be given by Professor M. Pal. And in fact, I feel proud to be associated with the lecture of Professor M. Pal. So I would now request Professor M. Pal, please, with the with your now you can please start your deliberation to the faculty members. And one thing I shall tell also at the end of your talk, that no one are requested to give some audio interaction. All faculties are requested to put their questions, to interact with speaker to the chat box. And I would request Professor Pal keep watch on the chat box regarding the various questions from faculty members. Okay, thank you, Professor Pal.
Good afternoon, everybody. So audience, I am audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
Oh, audible.
thank you.
So, sir, please.
Thank you, Professor De. Actually, you are not only mentor of physics department of Tripura University, you are also a guide to me, like, and also I consider you as my elder brother, not only as a senior colleague. I consider you as my elder brother. I always look forward to your guidance in my academic as well as all other issues also. So hope you are doing well and you are fully involved in this department still now. So regarding my talk, I will today give a deliberation on nanoscience and nanotechnology. But before that, it's my responsibility to thank the organizers, particularly the Department of Physics of Tripura University. I am really indebted to all of them because they are almost every time they consider me as a potential speaker or for any kind of engagement, they called me, and I also try to fulfill their engagement. I always consider their invitation, give priority to that invitation, because I am really involved with that university, with Tripura University Physics Department for a long time. So unfortunately, because of COVID, we are not meeting physically and we are meeting through intrawave virtually. But I hope everybody is doing well, and maybe when the COVID will be subside, I will be visit again Tripura University Physics Department for some assignment. Okay, so let me upload my slides. Yeah, is it visible and is it full screen?
Yes, it's visible and full screen. So please.
And audible, no? So I
Yes.
can start.
Yes, yes. Please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as I said, today I will discuss with nanoscience and nanotechnology. You may wonder that why I have chosen this kind of topic. So my first reason is that in this faculty development program, there are 3 tracks, and in one track, one of the major issue is nanoscience and nanotechnology. So that is one my first reason of choosing this title. And the second reason is nowadays nano is the buzzword. You cannot avoid this nano things everywhere. Every department, whether it is physics, in particular, I will say that every scientific department or engineering department, you will find a lot of activities on nanoscience and nanotechnology. The most important reason is that researchers consider that nanoscience and nanotechnology has the potential which can change everything, It can starting from our life to livelihood. So scientists are very much eager to know about this nanoscience and nanotechnology, though it's not that much new right now. It is more than 40 years old area, but still a lot of things are new to this area and a lot of things are remains to unexplored. So that's why scientists are strictly doing research work in this area. And my group is also involved in this area. We do a lot of activities based on nanoscience and nanotechnology in different areas. So if you look at my outline very carefully, you will find that I will try to touch upon all the aspects of nanoscience and nanotechnology. I will cover everything. So it's a kind of brief review, you can say. And but the thing is, I will just give a very basic kind of lecture, keeping in mind that there will be, as I am informed, there will be around 100 participants from different scientific stream. So maybe many of them are not working in this area. That's why I have arranged my talk kind of basic lecture. But I am always open to anybody if he or she is interested to discuss in much more detail about something on some issues of nanoscience and nanotechnology. So those who are expert, please excuse me because it's a kind of basic lecture. Okay, let me start my topic. So I will, as I said, I will start from the very beginning. So the word nano is a Greek word. It means basically dwarf, and it's the 1 billionth, means 10 to the power minus 9 meter. If you consider hydrogen atom, the smallest one, which is around 1 angstrom. So if you place hydrogen atom 1 by 1, then 1 nanometer means it's 10 hydrogen atom 1 by 1. And the smallest thing which we can see is around 10,000 nanometers. So you can understand very carefully that it's not possible to look this nanomaterial or nanometer size of thing with just by our eye. So we need special kind of instrument to look after all those nanomaterials and nano things that I will discuss later. So about nanomaterial. Nanomaterial basically it's a material, grossly saying it's the material. If we consider that material has 3 dimensions, so it's the material where at least 1 dimension should be in the nanometer range. But precisely saying it should be the size where basically quantum size effect prevail. Means I will come after this quantum size effect, but the means is that there will really we will get some novel property of the material which is not there in its bulk state. So all the properties of nanomaterials will drastically change from their bulk counterpart if we go to this nanometer dimension. And if we look into the little bit of scientific aspect, at the right hand side, you can, in the block, you can see that if we apply some kind of uncertainty, then it will be like something like d by wavelength. It's very, very small in length. So in that scale, nanomaterial gives the right property. I am not going into details. In fact, in my presentation, I will not give you any model, any analysis, or any research result from our group because I want that everybody should get some idea on nanomaterials and nanoscience and technology if it is a basic kind of thing. So I have kept my presentation on basic only. Now, definition. Nanoscience basically is the study of fundamental principle of molecules and structure of material having dimension less than 100 nanometer. And nanotechnology is basically it's a kind of technology where we use these nanomaterials. So try to understand what is a nanomaterial. From right hand side of this scale, you can see that up to this 1 millimeter range or less than 1 millimeter submicron range, we can see with our open eye. But if it is below that one, size is below that one, like in micron range, then we need some instrument like microscope type of things. Particularly this micron range of particles or material can be seen with ordinary light microscope. But if we go below that one, like submicron to nanometer range, then light microscope will not work. And in that case, we need some kind of special microscope. We call it electron microscope. And with the help of that electron microscope only, we can see the nanomaterials and nanostructure. So like starting from atom to lipid to proteins, all those things, ribosomes, we can see only by electron microscope. It's not possible to see them with our open eye. So grossly, if we consider the material, whole material world, we can divide them into material world can be divided then into three parts. One is macro, another is micro, and last one is nano world. So total material science can be divided into these three worlds. Now about this, yes.
Please say the PPT. PPT is not shown.
PPT, is it?
No, it's showing, it's working. So maybe problem in the your end. So speaker can continue. We can see the PPT.
Okay, so little bit of history about this nanomaterial. Now we are talking so much about nanomaterials, but it's not that it has started a few years back, as I mentioned, around 40 years back. Earlier also it was there, but people was not aware about this nanomaterial like things. If you look at the very old churches, there you will find some colored glass, which are based on nanoscience and nanotechnology. But the people, those who have made this one, they were not aware about this nanoscience and nanotechnology. They have prepared this glass with a special mixture which can give this color, but they don't. That time there was no idea about nanomaterials. Like if you see this Leica glass cup, you see the cup in left hand side, it is completely looks like red because it is light is from back side. But when light is from front side, it looks like same cup. It looks like green. It's a cup holded by metal structure. So same cup, once it is red and another time it is green, depending upon from which side you are exposing the light. And the thing is, this cup is also prepared around 300 years, but that time also people those who have made this one, they were not about they were not aware about nanoscience and technology. Now we can understand that this color change of this Leica gas cup has happened due to this beauty of this nanomaterial. Yeah. Is it okay? Okay. So at this cup you can see even in now also in British Museum. Okay. So these are the little bit about history of nanomaterials. Even Mother Nature has given us. Somebody is saying something. Please mute your microphone.
So I request all the participants positively, please mute your microphone. If you have any questions, please note down and share through chat box at the end part of the lecture. So please mute your microphone, please. Otherwise, we will be forced to make you out of the meeting.
Okay, so let me continue. Mother Nature has also given us a lot of nanomaterials in our body only, like this protein, DNA, ribosome, antibody, virus, red blood corpuscles, all are there in our body and all of them are nanomaterials. So it's not that nowadays only scientists are preparing nanomaterials in the laboratory. It was there earlier. It is there in our body also. So you can understand that nothing is new. Everything was there. So you may ask me, sir, then what is new here and why scientists are now so much eager to know about this nanomaterial? New is that Earlier, we cannot control the growth of this nanomaterial or we cannot control their movement or size or structure. Now, with the help of modern technology, with the help of modern instrument, we can manipulate them, we can change their shape, we can change their structure, we can change their size according to our need. So that is the new. Otherwise, nano was there earlier also, as I shown in my previous some slides. So again, some recent history about nanomaterials, some recent history about nanomaterials. Actually, in 1959, great physicist Feynman gave a lecture, and in his lecture, he mentioned that there is enough room at the bottom. Here, bottom means at the, he means to say something around very, very smaller particle size or atomic level. And Japanese scientist in 1974, Professor Taniguchi, he first used the term nanotechnology. Otherwise, also there were some literature can be found in this nanomaterial range, but that time it is not written as nano, it is written as either submicron or angstrom level. So it all started from 1974 when Professor Taniguchi used this term nanotechnology. So if I give an elaborate picture, so in 1959, it's Professor Feynman, then 1974, Professor Taniguchi, who used this term, coined this term nanotechnology. Then in 1981, the discovery of scanning tunneling microscope. It's a very important tool for nanomaterials. In fact, by this material, by this tool, you can not only you can see or you can touch the nanomaterial, even you can move the nanomaterial as per your desire. And first time in 1989, IBM has created this structure, their logo, this IBM, using 35 xenon atoms with the help of this STM. So these are the history of development of nanomaterials and their tools to use nanomaterials. Then in between 1990 to 2000, some application of nanomaterials came in some cosmetics and all those things. And in 2004, another landmark discovery related with nanomaterial is graphene, and because of that, Nobel Prize awarded to the scientist in 2010. And even in 2016, some chemists got Nobel Prize because of their discovery of some kind of nanoscale machine, particularly nano car, which is there in this this right-hand figure. So these are the modern history of nanoscience and nanotechnology. Now, why really we are so much interested on this nanomaterial, nanoscience and nanotechnology? Because if you see this diagram, nanomaterial, it is said that nanomaterial has application in almost all the atmosphere of all the atmosphere of pharmacy, this agriculture, textile, electronics, energy, medicine, automotive industry, even in our military sector, in our strategic sector, everywhere we can find application, and lot of applications is proposed right now. Maybe everything is not available in the market right now, but scientists are working and they are moving forward for real application of nanomaterials in those areas. So you cannot avoid nanomaterials because or nanotechnology, because it is everywhere. Some striking features I must give you idea on nanomaterials, because when a material is bulk, its property is different, and it can be completely opposite property when it goes to nanomaterial range. For example, what I have written here, a ferromagnetic or ferrimagnetic material can be a super paramagnetic material when it goes to nano size range. Similarly, a paramagnetic material in bulk state can goes to or can gives to ferromagnetic property when it goes to nanomaterial dimension. Even metal can behave like semiconductor, ductile material can behave like superplastic. The most important thing, which I will show you in my next slide, that gold, which mostly used for ornamental purpose and for some medical applications, it loses its sign and it becomes an ordinary metal in nano state. So if you look at this picture in this bottle, it contains some colloidal solution of gold. It's called meso gold, where size of gold particle is very, very small. And you see the color is different. It is slightly pink. And if you look into more carefully in more smaller size of gold, then you can see that almost every color can be generated by from the gold only by changing the size. So you see here in this, it's the gold bar in the bottom left corner side, which is their original color. But if you look at into the next picture, it is 100 nanometer gold particle, which color is something like purple pink. And the middle one is 20 nanometer gold particle, whose color is red. And the last one, the right one bottom, it's the 1 nanometer gold particle, which color is like brownish yellow. So you can understand that in nanometer range, drastic change of property can occur. So this is the optical properties of gold, which can change really drastically. You can in fact create any color from gold just by changing the size. Similarly, if you consider zinc oxide, if you look into the zinc oxide powder, which is available, I think, in almost every lab, whether it is physics or chemistry or any engineering lab, you will find that the zinc oxide powders are white powder. But again, if you change the color, you can create, if you change the dimension, and if you go to the nanometer dimension, you can create different color in zinc oxide. That is also very important, because zinc oxide is an important material. It can be used for various optical purpose, various medical purpose, and there it has a lot of, also in photovoltaic and solar cell, it has huge application. So by controlling size, we can change the performance of zinc oxide also. So now it may comes in your mind that why this kind of drastic change of properties happened in same material when we goes from bulk size to nanometer size. So little bit of science I will share with you regarding this change of nanomaterial, why the properties goes change. So there are few important parameters which are responsible for this kind of change in properties of nanomaterial, whether it is color, whether it is conductivity, whether it is magnetic, or whether it is surface properties or reactivity. There are few parameters. The most important parameter is surface to volume ratio. If you look into the first cube, it's a 1 meter cube. So its surface, it has 6 surfaces. So surface area will be 6 meter square. But if you make it small, same, if you make it half, so there will be 8 cube. Surface area will remain same, but volume will be 12. So the volume will, the volume will remain same, but the surface area will be 12 meters square. Similarly, if you make it 27 pieces, again the volume will remain same, but the surface area will increase to 18 meters square. So you can see the same 1 meter cube goes to 18 meters square surface area when it makes 27 pieces. Like if you from a mercury drop, if you drop it into the surface, you will find that there are a lot of small droplet, and the volume is same, remains same, total volume will remain same, but you will get lot of higher surface area. So that means surface to volume ratio increases enormously when you go to nanometer dimension, and it is responsible for most of the surface related properties of nanomaterials, or some chemical properties also for this change or reactivity for this increase in surface to volume ratio. So this is one important parameter responsible for drastic change in nanometers properties. Second important parameter is band gap. You all know that there is a band gap in semiconductor. It's the gap between the valence band and conduction band. So if you control the size, for example, if you go from bulk to nanometer, if you consider this top left corner, left side figure, at the left, it is the bulk material. The black arrow shows the band gap. Above is the conduction band, and below is the valence band. And when we are decreasing the size, you see that from cube to we are decreasing size. So red arrow, green arrow, and blue arrow, it shows that band gap is increasing. Means when you are decreasing the size, band gap is increasing. So if band gas changes, so its electrical, particularly its electrical, thermal conductivity will change, and definitely you will get different property in comparison with its bulk counterpart. Even you look at this bottom right side corner figure, it is nothing but CDS nanoparticle. By changing the color, it is possible, it is a very famous picture. They have shown that by changing the color, you can create any color. They call it that dial your color. Just by changing size, same CDS nanoparticle give different color from red to yellow to green to blue. So that is another important parameter, the band gap of semiconductor, which is responsible for drastic change in nanometer range. Another important parameter is number of atoms on the surface. If we consider like a sphere of around, say, for example, 12.5 nanometer, it says that almost 10% atoms remain in the surface for this sphere. Again, same sphere, if you decrease the size around radius 5 nanometer, it has been shown theoretically that more than 25% atoms come onto the surface. So what I mean to say that if you go on decreasing the size of same material, the number of surface atom will increase. You look into this graph, and if you consider from right hand side to if you go coming down to this origin side, you see that basically diameter of the particle is decreasing, which is in the x-axis, and you see in y-axis the number of surface atom, which is increasing drastically. That means what I mean to say that if you go to the lower dimension, lower size, then number of surface atom will increases rapidly, and that is giving some drastic change in properties, particularly which are depends on surface related issues like this catalytic activities and other things. So another important parameter, particularly for magnetic particle, it is the domain size. Again, if we decrease the particle size, actually the domain inside the particle will changes their size. And if you look at this graph from right hand side, the most bigger circle is the we call it multi-domain side. They are inside the domain. The spin of magnetic material is randomly oriented, but if you decrease the size of this domain, and ultimately if you come to the peak, which is denoted as single domain, there will be only one domain and all the spin will be same direction. That means there will be no cancellation of magnetic property, so it can shows ferromagnetic type of properties, because it will show you some magnetic property. Then even from single domain, if you go to the much smaller dimension, which we call super paramagnetic region, then because of instability, all the spin in the single domain will be randomly oriented and you will not get any magnetic property. So for particularly magnetic material, it is the domain size in nanometer range which is responsible for drastic change in properties. As I mentioned earlier, if some material in bulk condition is remain in ferromagnetic state, it will be paramagnetic in nano state. Even for material which are paramagnetic for nanoscale, for bulk material, bulk state, it can be ferromagnetic for nanomaterial stage if we consider the single domain size. So these few important parameters, like as I described, like surface to volume ratio, like band gap, and the number of atoms in the surface, and particularly for magnetic material, the domain size. These are the most important parameters which are responsible for drastic change of any properties of nanomaterial in comparison with their bulk counterpart. So these are the little bit of science which I wanted to share with you, because it may is changing. So if something change in nanomaterial size, you can consider these 4 parameters first, then you can think of others. If you fail to explain all those things, then you can think of other parameters. Now about different type of nanomaterials. Grossly said, a material can be considered as quantum dot, which I have said earlier. It can be one-dimensional, it can be two-dimensional, it can be three-dimensional. If it is three-dimensional, the right-hand side figure, then it means that it's the bulk material. All the three directions of the material is open. But if it is two-dimensional, like thin film type of things, then in that case, one dimension is restricted, like the thickness of the film is restricted. If you restrict the film thickness in nanometer range, you can consider it as a nanomaterial. Then come to one-dimensional material. In case of one-dimensional material, other two dimensions are restricted, like these nanotubes and all those things. They are one-dimensional material because their other two directions are restricted. Only one direction you can change. And the left-hand side figure, this is called zero-dimensional material. In this case, all the three-dimensional materials are restricted, and this is called nothing but quantum dot. Actually, these are basically very, very small particle of any material. In general, quantum dots are basically less than 10 nanometer for any material. So these are the type of material. Earlier, we could say that materials could have three dimension, but we can say now zero dimension is also a dimensionless material, which we call quantum dot. So these four types of nanomaterial you can create it. So now the next question comes, sir, how we can create this kind of nanostructure material, whether it is zero dimension, whether it is one dimension or two dimension, how we can create. So I will say grossly there are two type of process. One is called bottom-up process and another is called top-down process. What is bottom-up? Bottom-up means from bottom to you are going up, means we will consider from we will consider from atomic level, and from that atomic level we will go to the nanometer size, and if you go on increasing, then we can go to the bulk size. That is called bottom up, means from small to big, like this spinning, sol gel, laser pyrolysis, chemical vapor deposition, molecular condensation, chemical reduction, green synthesis, all these are example of bottom up approach. Similarly, there is top down approach also, which means from top to down, means bigger size to smaller size, means you will prepare the nanomaterial from bulk material. So and you have to restrict somewhere just to get the desired size of nanomaterial, like mechanical milling, including ball milling, etching, laser ablation, sputtering. All these are kind of top down approach, means from bigger to smaller size. So grossly, these two type of procedures are there, bottom up and top down approach, by which you can prepare nanomaterial. Now, question of characterization. Actually, this molecular level things, particularly chemist has already, they are using for a long time. But the thing is, probing that smaller thing was difficult. But nowadays, because by the virtue of technology, modern technology, we are able to fabricate various kind of sophisticated tool by which we can really see the nanomaterials. That's why this is now most important. So characterization of nanomaterial is very important. You can use XRD, DTA, TEM, UV visible, everything. Please keep in mind that as you will go on decreasing the particle size, you have to have use the tools which has probe size also very small. So if you look into the bottom picture, you see that probe size is going to decrease, and particularly in this TEM, this is the latest transmission electron microscope. This is required for the smaller size. So these are the characterizing tools for nanomaterials. And once you are having a high resolution TEM, you can really see the atomic level of things. So if I go into little more details, by this is, you see, this is a optical microscope, the left hand side figure. So using that, you can see smaller size in bigger scale, but it has a limitation because it cannot see everything. It cannot see nanomaterial because it uses ordinary light. Wavelength is much higher. So to see the much smaller size like nanomaterial, we we need to have some kind of electron microscope, because electron, their wavelength is very, very small. If it is high resolution, high speed electron, then wavelength will be less than 1 nanometer also in particular cases. So we use scanning electron microscope, which has been initially demonstrated in 1930, and later on after 1950s, it is using tremendously to see this kind of nanomaterials. This is scanning electron microscope. Other than that, the latest one in tunneling electron microscope, transmission electron microscope. So left hand side is the figure of transmission electron microscope, and with the help of this transmission electron microscope, actually here we are using high velocity electron to see the structure. And this top right hand side picture is the nanoparticle, picture of nanoparticle captured in transmission electron microscope. And the bottom was, I don't know whether in your screen, in mobile screen or computer screen, whether it is clear or not. It is basically we called high resolution structure. If you go to high resolution structure using some high resolution TEM, then you can literally see the lattices also. So how they are arranged, that is possible to see, and from that you can calculate the lattice parameter also. So these are the beauty of TEM. Also, you can check the composition of nanomaterials using this TEM. That is also possible. Even now we can understand the nanomaterial by touching also. What I understood, what I mean to say by touching, because there are some probes by which you can really touch the surface of nanomaterials. This is called scanning tunneling microscope, STM in brief. And with that, you can really touch the surface of nanomaterial. And from that, if you scan that one, you can really get the idea of dimension of nanomaterial. And not only the idea of nanomaterial, with this STM, you can move a single atom also from one place to another place, and you can visualize your structure. You can generate any kind of structure using this STM tip, like what I have shown earlier, that IBM had already demonstrated in around 1991, that IBM logo, they have used this kind of scanning tunneling microscope. So all these are the basically characterizing tool. Let me say you that all the characterizing tools are really very sophisticated tool, and they are very costly. It is very difficult to set up all these tools in same lab. But in India also right now, there are a lot of national laboratories or some good private universities where this kind of facilities is available. Now I'll briefly go to the some application of nanomaterial, because since my beginning I am talking about nanomaterials, and I am saying that it has a huge potential to do a lot of things. So I will show you some application of nanomaterials. These are the applications which are right now available in the market, like this washing machine and this AC. They use some nano coating on their filter to give what I say, kind of antibacterial coating to keep the cloth fresh, and also some kind of sometimes some kind of flavor also for some smell also. They use this kind of things to keep indoor quality air very good. This is quantum dot LED. This is same material, just by changing particle size in nanometer range. It is possible to create different kind of LED. So these are also available right now in the market. This is Bayer, is a paint company in US, very famous paint company. They have shown that by using nanomaterials, colloid of nanomaterials, they can produce long-lasting anti-fade kind of paint, which they are now using. So these are a kind of application of nanomaterial, basic application of nanomaterial. You see that in 2007 only, Mercedes-Benz has demonstrated that using some paint containing some nanomaterial particles, they can prove they can give us scratch-resistant coating on their car. So this is also another famous picture. You look at the face of this person. In the right hand side, you see that it is very white face. This is a kind of cream based on zinc oxide bulk powder. It is used to protect face skin. But when zinc oxide powder is in nanometer range, like less than 25 nanometer, that becomes transparent, and that can be used to protect UV light from sunlight, which is applied in the left hand side of the face. So that is another beauty of nanomaterials, and also another application of nanomaterial to protect our skin, particularly from UV, from sunlight. This is again in textile industry. They use this kind of screen, this kind of nanomaterial for antibacterial coating, and also to give some smell into these clothes. So the application which I have shown you in last few slides, they are basically what we call is a first generation application, but they are not that much on nanomaterials. Nanomaterial has lot of things to offer. Particularly, it can bring a sea change in our medical line, particularly for MRI contrast agent, for targeted drug delivery, for magnetic hyperthermia. Actually, scientists are working in their laboratory for this kind of application. In some cases, they have also demonstrated something, but now they are not available in the market. But I'm sure that in near future it will come to the market. So in medical line, nanomaterial can bring a really a huge change. Similarly, in case of energy application, nanomaterial can bring a huge change in terms of capture of sunlight, storing and transferring of energy. So people, those who are working in this photovoltaic area, they are trying this kind of things to use nanomaterial for energy application. Nanotechnology can also give you a flexible electronics, means some kind of flexible screen they can produce with the help of nanomaterials. Like nowadays already Sony has demonstrated one TV screen which can be fold like mat or something like that. So you can it is kind of portable, and you can bring it to anywhere in outstation. This kind of using this kind of flexible electronics technique. And nowadays people are trying to do this technique, flexible electronics, for everything, like starting from mobile. You can fold your mobile and you can keep it in your pocket just by using this kind of flexible electronics, which based on nanomaterials. Nanotechnology is very much there in computer also. In fact, nowadays this hard disk, high capacity hard disks and all those things are coming from nanomaterials. Also, people are trying to use nano rods for display purpose, which will give much more enhanced visibility of their screen. Nanotechnology, as I earlier mentioned also, that nanotechnology is very much there in case of textile industry also. They can use that nanomaterials, they can give a kind of hydrophobic coating by which it can be dust free, it can remain dust free and also bacteria free. So all these are lab level trial process, stage right now, and in near future they can come into the market. Even nanotechnology can contribute to the food also. You can prepare much more better healthy food using nanotechnology. You can prepare very smaller size food having much more much more calorie which is required for a space traveler. So all these are in trial stage and people are trying to do using nano things. Nanomaterial can enormously contributed for cleaner water also. Nowadays industries, people are using nanomaterial for dye degradation to keep the water clean. Also nanoparticles can be used for filter purpose to get clean drinking water. So what I mean to say that it has huge application in all the domain. It can contribute a lot in space also. It can make the spacecraft size and weight maybe 10 times lesser what is there right now. So it has huge contribution. Even in memory storage, which is used in computer application right now, you see this picture is basically a weight was 70 pound. It's a 2 gigabyte hard drive during 1980, and its price was around more than $80,000. And nowadays you can keep 1 terabyte capacity hard disk just in the tip on the top of a pin. So that is the beauty of nanomaterial. Without nanomaterial, it was not possible. Even in your small pen drive now, you can get few terabyte capacity. So they are using some kind of nanomaterial based storage material, which is giving this very high capacity storage capacity. So these are some kind of application which may come into the market in near future. So I am almost came to end of this talk. So regarding this future of nanomaterial, I must say that I have tried to touch all the scientific aspect of nanomaterial, and I have given you a lot of example of nanomaterial which are there already in the market, the first generation of application of nanomaterials, and which are proposed in different areas, starting from food to space to medical line and all those things. But I should say that future of nanotechnology is really still uncertain. We cannot say right now what will be the future, because some scientists believe that nanoscience can contribute enormously to the society, and it will be a only science which is nanoscience. There will be remain only one science which is nanoscience. It has that potential. Even some scientists believe that though it can be only science, but because of its high potential, it may make our life uncomfortable. So that is a debatable issue. I am not going into that, but that is there. And most important thing is that future of nanomaterials really lies upon scientists. The way scientists will guide this nanoscience and nanotechnology, future will be depend on that. Future will be in that process only. For example, like this atomic bomb like things, it can be used, atomic bomb can be used to destroy some like hill and other things for our purpose, for the benefit of human being. Again, this atomic bomb can be used to destroy human beings also. So it depends upon scientists in which way they are guiding the future of nanoscience and nanotechnology. I must say that what I have demonstrated here in my presentation, all those are not so easy. There are a lot of challenges which scientists needs to meet, which scientists needs to mitigate. So which I have mentioned point wise in like A, B, C, D, E. So that has to be solved. That's why you will not find a lot of things in the market based on nanomaterials. Only first generation things are available in the market, because scientists has to mitigate many challenges like better synthesis method, better characterizing tool, which can really see all the atomic level things. Also, specific care needs to prevent the corrosioning of magnetic particles, because if they coarse and becomes a bulk size, then their property will be destroyed. Nanoscale property will be destroyed. Also, till date, clear understanding between the microstructure and the properties of nanomaterial is not there. So a lot of simulation work is required. Particularly for nano composite, one cannot go on decreasing the size because then it brings instability. So all these kind of things has to be matured. These are the challenges to the scientist which has to be solved in near future before getting any big application of nanomaterials which can really contribute to the society a big way. But it's sure that there is a chance to give a lot of contribution in society. There are also a lot of potential risk or risks of nanomaterials. Nowadays, toxicity is the major issue of nanomaterials, because it can damage our human body system. Like if we work on nanomaterial for prolonged time, carelessly, without mask, without gloves, then it may goes to our body through our skin or with our inhale, and ultimately it can goes to our brain, and it can break the barrier of this brain cell, and it can damage our brain. So that is one caution. Also, nanomaterial, enormous use of nanomaterial can damage the environmental issues also, because it can mix with soil, it can mix with water, and ultimately the aquatic life will be in danger. In fact, our agricultural food will get this nanomaterial, and ultimately our life will be in danger. So we have to be careful. These are very risks. In fact, lot of risk related assessment has to be carried out, what I have mentioned, while dealing with this nanomaterial. So these are the risk related issue. But still, as I am doing nanomaterial for more than 30 years. In fact, nanomaterials now, nanoscience and nanotechnology age is more than 40 years. It is going to be 50 years. So, and throughout the globe, people are using this nanoscience and nanotechnology. So I must conclude that a pessimist see the difficulty in every opportunity, and an opportunist see the opportunity in every difficulty. So I am always optimist, and I could say that it's really nanomaterials will bring a sea change in our society, in our life and livelihood. Thank you very much. So now I can answer your queries. There is enough time if you have anything.
Okay, thank you, Professor Paul, for your deliberation of nice lecture. I hope the talk is exactly of that level which the participants were actually expecting. And I think it has fulfilled the basic need of many participants to get the knowledge about nanoscience. I must appreciate Professor Paul, as he has talked right from studying the difference between macro, micro, etc., importance of nanoscience, and it is a very good and excellent presentation. In fact, Professor highlighted and highlighted the future prospect and challenges in this respect. Now, I would request the participant not to go to audio mode, but to go to chat mode. Please submit your questions, queries to the chat box. And I would request Professor Paul to keep watch on the chat box to interact with the participants. So nice of you.
So audience, do you have any question or any comment?
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I have a general question. I'm from Dr. Shona Shet from Tezpur University, Faculty of Applied Science, Department of Applied Sciences. So I have
Yes.
just, I am curious to know if you could enlighten us, if there is any scope from AICTE to apply for research funding in this, nanoscience area. Like, is there any specific funding opportunity in this area that we can apply for?
Yeah, Dr. Seth, can you again repeat your question because it was not clearly audible?
Okay. Am I audible clearly now?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, thanks. So my question is that in AICTE, is there any specific, research grant that we can apply for, in this area, nanoscience? Because my work area is also related to nanoscience, so that's why I'm interested.
Yeah, I
whether-
got your point. In fact, DST, CSR, AICT, biotechnology, Department of Biotechnology, all the scientific organization of Government of India, even UGC also, they support research work on nanoscience and nanotechnology. In fact, DST has a special division on nanoscience and nanotechnology. They support a lot of projects from nanoscience and nanotechnology. So you can apply. Only thing is that they will just check your credentials and all those things.
You mean DST, right? No, I'm
Yes,
I'm
yes,
curious.
yes. DST,
Oh.
DST, ACRB, all of them support nanoscience related project. In fact, DST has a special wing for nanoscience and nanotechnology.
Yes, okay, thank you. Now I was just curious about whether AICT has anything
Every all the scientific organization of government of India, they support this research on nanoscience and nanotechnology.
Thank you.
There are some questions on chat books. So
Can you
Dr.
please
Pal, please.
read?
Hello.
Dr. Mrinal, there are
Yes.
some questions in chat box. So can
Yeah,
you see it, or
no,
we shall read?
yeah, you just please read one by
Okay.
one.
Okay. So Mr. Pandiraj wants to know.
Yeah.
He is asking, can give little brief about quantum dot?
Little bit about.
Quantum dot.
Okay, so quantum dot, as I have mentioned, it's a basically dimensionless particle. It can be prepared either by chemical route or by any kind of physical route also. But the thing is, you have to be very careful because quantum dot by definition is dimensionless. So while preparing your material from atomic range, you have to restrict your reaction procedure at some stage where all the particles remain in this smaller size range, which we call quantum dot. So it is the technique or skill which one has to develop with time to prepare this kind of quantum dot. And once it is prepared, then using some characterizing tools, you have to check whether they are really quantum dot or not. And if it is quantum dot, then I can assure you that you will get lot of drastic change in its property in comparison with your bulk material, same bulk material. So that is quantum dot. It's called quantum dot because it is it's so small that movement is restricted inside this quantum well only. Okay.
Professor Paul, there is another question in the chat box.
Yes, please.
In India, on nanomaterials, whether
Yeah.
any industrial application? In
Uh,
India, on nanomaterials, whether any industrial application?
Yeah. Let me honestly say that the way he or she has raised this issue, there is my answer is briefly no. But one thing I can say that some companies, what I have shown that some first generation use of nanomaterial has came. So accordingly, some companies in India also, in abroad also, they are using nanoparticles only for a particular use, like what I have seen, what I have shown, this Samsung AC and refrigerators and this washing machine. They are now made in India and they are using nanoparticles to give him antibacterial coating like of things. Even this kind of this cosmetics, as I have already shown, they are preparing in India also using nanomaterials. It's the same cosmetic, they are using some nanoparticles and they are trying to improve the property.
Thank you, Professor Paul.
Yes.
Next, there is another question.
Yeah.
And the question is, how does the temperature affect the properties of materials in nanoscale? Effect of temperature on the materials in nanoscale.
It would have been better if the person who, if the faculty member who has raised this issue, if he mentioned that what kind of property, because if it is thermal property, then it is different. If it is magnetic property, then it's different. If it is chemical property, then also again it's different. Definitely like bulk material, nano size also, by changing temperature, property will change.
Ambit-
But it depends upon what property you are interested to see.
Okay, sir, I find no question right now from in the chat box. So I request, I take 1 minute to the participants. Please, if you can wish, you can submit more questions. We are having time. There is another 2 questions. Top down and bottom up approach. Which method is suitable for synthesis of quantum dots of any material without using any surfactant?
Yeah, so preparing.
Sir, again the question.
No.
Top down
I have got the
and bottom up approach. Which method is suitable for synthesis of quantum dot of any material without using the substance?
Yeah, I got the point. Yeah, it's a very good question. Honestly saying that if you are really interested in true quantum dot, actually, as I mentioned, quantum dot is a dimensionless particle, but sometimes we scientists called is a quantum dot, even the size is something around 10 nanometer, 15 nanometer, 20 nanometers. You will find in literature that they have mentioned is quantum dot, but in true sense, it is very, very small. Definitely, it should be below 10 nanometer. And if you are really interested on that kind of size in quantum dot, it is always beneficial if you use some kind of bottom-up approach, because in bottom-up approach, you can restrict your reaction at any stage. That is easier. But if you try to prepare this, in particular this quantum dot using top-down approach, then it is little bit difficult. Yes, definitely you can get it, but there is a high chance that there will be some mixing of some bigger size also, which are true sense not quantum dot. So my suggestion is it's better to use bottom-up approach for making quantum dot in true sense. In fact, most of the literature, if you will find that they are using bottom-up approach for this kind of quantum dot.
Okay, I think the participant has been given right answer by Professor Paul. Now I find another question rightly put by one participant. Is there any method or standard to measure the damage that happened to human body in nanoscale?
What?
Participant asked, is there any method or standard to measure the damage that happened to human body in nanoscale?
Yeah, I got the point.
Okay, by
Yeah,
nanoscales.
Yeah, so actually,
Damage that happened to human body by nanoscale.
yeah, I understood the
Any
point.
standard method to measure it?
Yeah, till date, there is no such kind of standard method or standard tools to detect what kind of damage has already occurred while doing on nanomaterials. But there is a complete area which called toxicology, particularly for nanomaterials, it is nanotoxicology. There people are trying to get this kind of idea that if somebody is exposing on nanomaterials for a long time, what kind of damage is happening in their brain or on their skin like. But there is no such specific instrument. By checking your different parameter, one can guess that nanomaterial has damaged your this kind of functional activities as you are exposing to nanomaterial for longer time. So it's a completely nanotoxicology area, that is completely different area, but it's a very good point because all of us has to be very careful while dealing with nanomaterials. I always ask my student to use apron, to use mask, to use gloves while preparing nanomaterial, because nobody knows in future this can damage his or her body function or his or her skin or brain, because it has that potential to break the brain barrier also. So one has to be very careful. But there is no particular experimental tools or any technique by which you can measure that yes, that much, that kind of damage has been occurred, but that percentage of damage has been occurred. That is not there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, okay, carry on. Okay, so there is another question.
Yes.
Are spin properties of material more significant in nanosize? The significance of spin properties in nanosize.
Significance of which properties?
Spin properties.
Spin.
Spin property, SPIN, spin properties of material.
Yeah. Basically, the question is related to magnetic nanoparticles. If you look into the picture which I have shared earlier, yes, my screen is visible.
Yes, visible.
Yeah. So the spin related question can be answered from this picture. If you go on decreasing size as it is there from right hand side to left hand side, spin orientation will be changed. And in single domain size, because as there is only one domain, all the spin will remain same. So in this size, any material, whether it is ferromagnetic or paramagnetic, it can shows magnetic properties, which is depend on spin. But if you go beyond this single domain size, the peak denotes the single domain size. And if you go beyond the single domain size, like smaller than this single domain, then you are reaching to super paramagnetic region. Means your domain is single domain, but because of this anisotropy related issue, anisotropy is basically the energy or force which keep the spin in same direction, in particular direction. When this will be lesser than this surface energy, then the anisotropy will be vanished and the spin will be randomly oriented, which I have shown here in the smaller dot of in left hand side. You see the spin, there are 3 spin in the schematic, all these 3 are in 3 different directions. That means the spin orientation will change and material will become a paramagnetic material, which we call a super paramagnetic material. So definitely spin property depends on the size. It's related with magnetic nanocomposite. Yes, Professor De, are there any other issues? Hello? Hello, Professor Hussain?
Coordinator regarding the PPT, and coordinator will contact with Professor Paul and he will be able to share the materials to you. So you please keep the demand to coordinator via WhatsApp, etc. Okay. So Professor Paul, I place another question submitted by one faculty member.
Yes.
Future application of nanomaterial based resistive switching. Wants to know future application of nanomaterials, nanomaterial based resistive switching.
Yeah, Professor De, your voice is cracking. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Okay, sure. Future application of nanomaterials, nanomaterial based resistive switching.
Resistive switching, sir.
Application of nanomaterial based resistive switching.
Resistive?
Switching, sir.
Switching.
Yeah,
Resistive switching.
Yeah, I understood. I got the point. Yeah, I did not say anything about this, but definitely what I can say for any application, for any kind of application, if you use nanomaterial, definitely there will be some change. In some cases, it can enhance your performance. In some cases, it can destroy your performance. So If it destroy, then you don't need to use that one. But if it is really enhance the performance, you can use nanomaterial. But definitely because of this nano activities, because of its properties, nanomaterial will change the property. That is fine. Whether that is resistive switching or other things, definitely it will bring a change. If it is for positive, then you can use it, and if it is for negative change, then you don't need to use it.
Okay, thank you, Professor Paul.
Yes.
There is another question.
Yeah.
I think now my
please.
voice is clear. The question is why you used tunneling electron microscope or scanning tunneling microscope on the place of transmission EM and scanning EM.
Yeah, it's
He
not that
asked your use of tunneling EM and scanning tunneling microscope in
Yeah,
place
yeah.
of
Yeah.
transmission EM and scanning EM.
You see, it's not that one has to use scanning tunneling microscope always, but if somebody is more interested on surface like phenomenon, then it's better to use scanning tunneling microscope. And another important criteria of using scanning tunneling microscope is that you can really move atom from one place to another place just to create some nanostructure. That is important. That is important because in that case, you can prepare your desired structure. Otherwise, you don't need to use nano STM, scanning tunneling microscope. You can use TEM also for characterizing nanomaterial. You can use SEM also for your characterization. So I have shared another slide which I did not present it during my talk. Is it visible, Professor De, Professor Hussain?
Yes.
Yeah. So please look into this slide. This structure has been created using this scanning tunneling microscope. This is this kind of structure is possible only by scanning tunneling microscope. So if you are interested to create some kind of desired structure, then you have to use this scanning tunneling, right? Like this left hand side top figure is we call this nano coral. This top right hand side figure is called nano abacus. Even this is IBM, which I have already demonstrated during my presentation. Using just 32 xenon atom, they have created this IBM logo with the help of scanning tunneling microscope. Or if you look at this bottom left figure, you can create almost pentagon, hexagon, triangle, square, circle, any kind of structure using this kind of scanning tunneling microscope. Without that, it is not possible. So while doing some kind of defined structure, then it is required to use scanning tunneling microscope. Otherwise, if you are interested on surface properties also, scanning tunneling microscope give the surface morphology. Otherwise, there are SEM or TM which you can use for characterization. It's not that everybody will all use all the tools to characterize nanometer. It's not possible. In fact, in all laboratories, it is not possible to have all the tools. I have just demonstrated several tools which can characterize nanomaterials for different purpose. Okay.
So thank you, Professor Paul. Now, next question is, what is magnetic hyperthermia? Magnetic hyperthermia.
Yes. It's a very good question. It's a very modern development, I can say. Magnetic hyperthermia. Yes. No, that slide. Yes. So is this slide visible, Professor De, magnetic hyperthermia?
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, actually, I have make my presentation intentionally little less because I was thinking that if the participants are interested on different issues, then I will share all those things. So in my backup, I have almost all kind of slides. So if when somebody is interested on some issue, I can share that one. Like somebody is interested, some faculty member is interested on magnetic hyperthermia. Let me explain that one. magnetic hyperthermia is nothing but creating localized temperature in our body. You can understand that it is creation of temperature in a very localized portion in our body. What is its application? Its application is to damage the tumor, particularly for cancer application. It has huge potential. What happens? I particularly, if you can consider for a cancer patient, if he or she has some cancer in some part of his body, what we do, common medical treatment is some kind of ray therapy or kind of this which I can say, there are some therapies which are actually not targeted to specific point, and they damage whole cells of our body part. Even by using this chemotherapy, you will lose your hair and all those things, and many cells of your body from different part can damage. So it's not only damaging the cancer cell, it damages our whole body. In fact, it damages more than cancer cell. That's why nowadays scientists are trying to use this kind of magnetic hypothermia. This is nothing but inclusion of some magnetic colloidal material through injection in that particular cell. And as this is the magnetic colloidal suspension, means it contains some smaller magnetic particle. By using some external magnetic field, you can look into this figure, this right hand side sketch. There is a patient, red point is the tumor, and people are injecting this magnetic colloidal solution into the body. Then by applying this, N and S stand for this magnetic field. By applying some external magnetic field, you can create, if it is AC field, you can create some kind of movement, backward and forth movement in the magnetic particle, because as they are magnetic and you are externally applying magnetic field. So there will be a kind of motion in the magnetic particle, back and forth motion. And if it is very high, because if the frequency of the applied magnetic field is very high, that motion will generate temperature, and it can rise the temperature up to 42 degrees centigrade in that particular small portion, and that is enough to destroy all the cancerous cell of that tumor. That is the magnetic hyperthermia, means using magnetic particle creating high temperature to destroy tumor, particularly cancer. So I hope this is clear to everybody.
Sir, which magnetic fluid is used?
Yeah, it depends. It depends. Sometimes till date, actually, all these are till date in R&D scale. It's not used in hospitals for every patient. These are in R&D scale, but in general, it is gamma iron oxide magnetic particle.
Okay.
Yeah. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, Professor Day, anything else? Professor Hossain, are you there?
Yes, I am telling, please.
Question.
Yeah.
To explain about the corona vaccine using nanomaterials.
What?
To explain about the corona vaccine using nanomaterials.
I'm not getting your point. Your microphone is not, I think you're not.
Sir, explain about
I
the
repeat,
corona
I
vaccine
repeat.
using nanomaterials.
That is really in laboratory scale. Nothing can be predicted right now. Nothing can be. There is no literature till date, so I cannot predict anything.
Okay, sir. There is another question.
Yeah.
One faculty asked, can I see single nanoparticle by naked eye?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have already shown. I have already shown. That's why actually I have kept my. Hello. Yeah. That's why I have kept my presentation on basic level already, because you see, you look at this picture. I have said that with our naked eye, we can see something like some micron maybe maximum with our naked eye. And if we want to see much smaller size, then we need some kind of microscope. It could be
એટલે હું તો ડિંડોંગ માંથી લઈ લેશું અહીંયા.
yeah, and if it is nano, then you have to have some electron
છે
microscope.
દેવેશજી?
Okay, sir, I find here a last question. What is the basic reason for change of band gap with nanoparticle size?
Yes, okay. Yeah, look at this slide again. You see, when we are going to you look at this left-hand side top figure. The first black arrow indicates the
હા, બોલો.
bulk material, bulk semiconductor.
હો જમી આવ્યો અત્યારે એટલે મેં મેલ કરી દીધો છે ને. હા અને
Please mute
ધીરજ
everybody.
વાસી ને રજિસ્ટ્રાર ત્રણેય જગ્યાએ કર્યો.
Everybody, please mute. Yeah. Okay. So top top left-hand side figure, you look at the black arrow indicates that band gap of a semiconductor. Upper side is conduction band and lower band is valence band. If we decrease size continuously, then this red arrow, green arrow and blue arrow, it indicates that the same material band gap is increasing. And your question is why it is increasing. Okay, so let me place it from reverse side. You go from this blue arrow. Blue arrow means it is almost in atomic level. Some atoms are there. What happens in case of atom? They have some atomic level only. And when from atom to we go to molecule, then molecule to bulk material, these levels collapse together and they make band gap. So when it is in atomic range or in molecular range, you can understand that there will be only few atoms or few things in molecule. So they will not be collapsed. So that gap will remain bigger, which is there in case of blue or green, even in case of red. When you are in bulk range, then actually all the atomic level has collapsed in valence band and conduction band. That's why this is smaller. Okay.
Sir, I one request to the participant. The time is now going to be end. If any other questions is there from participant side, may contact the coordinator and place it to coordinator. He will contact with Professor Pal or to give you the right response. So with this interaction between participants and our honorable speaker, Professor Pal, I thank to all. My thanks is to all faculty members and also Professor Pal to present a nice material about this nanotechnology, right from the history of the nanotechnology up to the present situation, including the future prospect and challenges. So I'm glad to find you, Professor Pal, here. Long time after, at least 2 years after I find you. Thanks to you. Okay, please, I declare the end of this first technical session.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the participants and all the organizers, and particularly Professor Dey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minalda.
Yeah.
So there is an announcement for the participants. Now there is a lunch break till 2:30 and next session will start at 2:30. So I request all of you to please join positively by 1:45, 15 minutes before the session.